hello. Welcome everybody to What's in Your Cup. What's in your cup? I have my friend, my mentor, Doula Brandi Bishop on tonight. I am so excited. We are highlighting Black businesses because August is Black Business Month. So we are definitely excited about that. Brandy,
Yes.
hey.
I'm so excited, so thankful that you invited me. It's been a good amount of time, and you know I am 100% a fan of Ebony since day one, and so I'm excited to be here. Thank you so
I
much.
love you. I am definitely a fan of yours. We're going to jump right into this. You are a doula. So, for people who don't know what that is, give me a brief synopsis of what a doula is and what a day in your life looks like.
That's a fun question. So, what a doula is? So, oftentimes doulas get confused with midwives. Doulas help a lot with the emotional, educational portion of birth, and so that can look like prenatally. It can also look like, of course, physical support, labor and delivery, and then it can also look like care and support in that postpartum period. We're not medically trained, and so we do a lot of our work on the physical side as far as giving comfort, as well as the emotional side to bring support and comfort there as well. A day of my life, right? So a day of my life these days, Emily, looks very different than I was when I was just solely doing birth work full time, just by myself. Within the last year, we have started an agency, and so my life is
Okay.
very different day to day now, which I'm super excited about. And so yeah, I get to do a lot more on the business side, which is what I enjoy most.
Mm-hmm.
It comes to what I feel like my specialty is in this space. And so I've been a doula for about almost 11 years now. Absolutely love it. And when I first started off, I worked really by myself. And so now having an agency and having a partner in crime, Miss Amani Byers is my co-owner for our agency, and so we just enjoy pouring back into other newer doulas. And so a day in a life now can look like emails and stuff early in the morning, maybe some prenatal appointments where I go out to our families' homes, check on them, see how they're doing, do some education. A lot of work with first-time parents, and I know you got some little ones, Emily, so I'm sure you remember what it's like being a first-time mom compared.
Yes, it was rough.
And so we do a lot of education. Sometimes my families, they just don't know what they don't know. When it's your first baby, you don't know a lot of things, and that's okay. So we go over a lot of what to expect during pregnancy, what to expect during labor and delivery. And then I'm also doing a lot of postpartum care these days.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people, postpartum has always been important. And I feel like as Black and brown women, sometimes we overlook that stage.
Mm-hmm.
But I found that to be really, really true during COVID and since COVID. And so I'm still doing quite a lot of postpartum care with families as well, which I really enjoy.
I need to relocate to Atlanta so I can come join the agency.
Yes, you do. you know, we
Listen.
are interested in having a few different locations, so we'll talk. But yeah, I am definitely a fan, and I think everybody need to come be a part of the tribe.
Listen, I love the tribe. So you've been a doula for 11 years. Tell us, how did you even start that? Did you stumble into it? Was it a
Very much.
purposeful, intentional move? Tell us how you got there.
No, during training, if you remember, we always talk about how this is a space that typically you're called to. You don't just wake up
Right.
and be like, I want a job where I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning on randomly, like, that's not something you typically think to yourself, right? And so becoming a doula was very much a stumble very much a stumble that was God led, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was in college, I did an internship at a place called World Relief. absolutely loved it. My core job was working with their intensive medical case manager. She was amazing. She taught me so much about refugees, about being a resource to the community. And so what the agency there did, I mean, literally each year, the United States and different countries around the world were allocated how many refugees we resettle in our country. And so World Relief had a certain amount that we were responsible for doing the resettling portion for, which means that you help them with their housing, you help them get jobs, you help them, of course, with medical aspects as well, which was what my job focused on. And so I tell people all the time that it was a two sides to each coin especially when it came to this job. One side of the coin was me working with families who unfortunately were victims of torture and trauma from different parts of the world. And then the other side was working with pregnant women. And so the World Health Organization considers pregnancy to be a medical condition. And so that meant that half of my job, I got to work with pregnant women from all different parts of the world. I tried to think back to maybe try to get a good number. And I think it was probably 65 plus different parts of the world that we were resettling, refugees from. So I got to see birth in a lot of different forms and fashion. And so one night, literally, I'm at a birth with the family because that was a part of my job. I was walking families through our medical system. This particular family, right. I forget because her baby girl was 10 pounds 8 ounces.
Oh no, man!
Right in there, and so I was at the birth, kind of just doing my thing, and I went out to the hallway to get a cup of coffee, and I seen somebody in some scrubs. She was grabbing some coffee too, and I assumed that she was a nurse. So I spoke to her like, "Hey, how many babies have you guys had on your shift?" Just kind of making conversation, and she's like, "Oh no, I'm just here for one person. I'm a doula." I'm like, I don't know what that is. She's speaking a different language to me. What's a doula? She's like, oh yeah, I just work with one family. She kind of explained what a doula was. And I'm like, hey, that sounds like what I'm doing here.
Anything else.
You're right. And so I found it to be so interesting and started to do my research. And, the rest is history. But going all the way back, my first birth ever was my sister. I was 10 when she was born, and being able to watch her birth, sometimes I just laugh at how that was such foreshadowing for my right? I was literally in the room when she was born. I remember looking like, what is going on here? I remember my mom screaming. I'm like, what is this? What kind of production? What are we running here, people? And now to look and be like, okay, I go to births all the time. Like, yeah, this is amazing. And every time
it is.
It is. Every time the birth is amazing. So yeah.
I just want to reiterate, this is my mentor, my doula mentor. Yes. So you've been in the game now 11 years. You have expanded. Tell us why you have noted that we need doulas, especially for Black and brown families.
Yeah. And so I love that question because I always love any space where I'm able to bring awareness, because when it comes to doula work, it really is one of those things where it's really life and death work. I've been in hospital rooms where I was like, I'm afraid for her life, right? And so a lot of people don't know that there's been a state of emergency we have been under, and this was declared by the CDC many years ago, right? So the unfortunate truth is that doulas are kind of coming more to the forefront and within the last 2 years, and we'll kind of talk about that in a sec. But this has been an issue, right? This has been a large problem as a developed nation. We're not a third world country, but as far as the developed world, the United States, our numbers for not just Black women, but in general for women, for deaths while we're, giving birth is extremely high. We are so advanced in so many areas. We lead the world, we lead the charge, but when it comes to how we treat women and babies, we don't do a good job. And of course, as Black women, this is always even more of an issue. And so Black women are 3 times more likely, sometimes even higher, depending on which part of the world, of America you live in, right? So Georgia, typically, we are either ranked number 1 or number 2 for the worst maternal outcomes. And so, especially for Black women. And so this is something that, it really burdens my heart. I, as a woman who doesn't have children, and I get asked often as a doula, is that something? Do you not want kids? Or are you gonna have kids? I'm like, Brandi don't need no kids at her house. That way, I get to show up to your house. I can't leave my house.
Right. Yeah.
I got a
If I
bunch
got
of
kids at my house.
but no, in all reality, it has a lot to do with the fact that I feel a burden to my sisters. Like their sisters, cousins, mothers dying. Like real, the way that we get to see on TV screens, so many things happening when it comes to like police brutality out on the streets. These same things are happening to Black women inside of hospital rooms, and so I just find it to be my life's work, something that I really feel called to, and I want to spend as much time as possible, shining light on the fact that this is happening, that Black women are, 3 times more likely and more in different states to die during, childbirth. And I think that it's one thing if that was a statistic where we're like, oh, that is an issue because of some kind of medical reason. But legitimately, we know from all of the things that, we have, all the studies, all of the questions that have been asked and answered, we know that the real reason for this is racism. At the bottom line, at the core, it is because of racism, and it has to do with the way that we're treated. It has to do with the way that we're not listened to. And so, it's my call.
Okay. You had a question and you've kind of answered it already. You were asked what leads to negative birthing outcomes for Black women, and you kind of already answered that.
Yeah. And so, to that point, and we go over this real heavy the first day of training. And so when I tell people that a system cannot be broken if it does what it was always meant to do, right? And so that's always my soapbox when it comes to the maternal outcomes, because in training we go over the fact that the whole system of obstetrics and gynecology is built on legitimately the backs of Black women,
and it is.
Yeah. And so when we talk about people like, Dr. James Morrison, who is considered to be the father of modern day obstetrics and gynecology, and how he performs, countless exploratory surgeries on Black women, and made them hold each other down, even though there was, anesthesia was around. This was not a time where they didn't have anesthesia, but instead of them using the anesthesia to, be able to treat women, instead they would just do exploratory, these surgeries on Black women and make them hold each other down, because his colleagues was like, they couldn't stomach it anymore. So instead, like women hold, and so when you think about that being the way that obstetrics and gynecology was built, and then our expectation is that Black women will be treated well, I tell people it's not the system's fault. It's our fault for thinking that a system that was built that way is going to ever work for our benefit, right? And so, and that, I will say I'm a bit of an extremist with that. I just think that it's important to not expect things out of something that were never put into it to begin with, right? But to further answer the question, it just has to do with, it really has to, at the core, do with racism within within medicine in general, and then it has to do with the fact that Black women are profiled as people who don't feel pain. Right? These are things that we hear, that we see in the media, and when that's the assumption before they even meet you and get to know you, it's hard to come back from that. It means that when you're in the hospital setting and you're telling people, well, this feels like this, they don't think about what you're saying. They're thinking about, oh, she's trying to cause some kind of problem, and that leads to that kind of dangerous thinking. When you categorize everybody as being somebody who's out to do something bad, you can't help but have bad outcomes, because that means you're not listening to people.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and it kind of, for me, that's even how I became a nurse. And how it further went over into me becoming a doula. I was actually able to help someone really close to me, and I wrote out her birth plan. And as we were going over and doing this, and she was actually surprised that they put it in a record, it was da 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 da, and there was like, yeah, we listened to it, we did it, we went through everything, but and and it was just being there to be an advocate. Okay, we're right here, the family, was right there. So it is they don't take us serious. They don't respect our bodies
Mm-hmm.
and are things that we need. And you have to have somebody there to advocate on your behalf. I think it was here recently they had a it was an Olympic runner
Mm-hmm.
who died during childbirth. She shouldn't have died.
Yeah. You can
There's no
imagine
reason she,
how healthy she was.
yeah, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's just crazy. What would you say to someone who was thinking of being a doula?
That's a good question. And so, because I train now, a lot of people are like, "Oh, Brandi, I want to take your training," and and I tell people, so two things, right? So this is a twofold question for me. Some people are called to birth work, right? But they're
Hmm.
not called to entrepreneurship. So that's one school of thought that they kind of need to
Yeah.
process and discover for themselves. And then another thing is that, are you willing to go the extra mile? Because being a doula is it's a fun job. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy it. I mean, I think that we need more doulas, right?
Hmm.
Especially black and brown doulas. And so at first glance, I would definitely encourage it. But I also think that it has to be something that you're called to. If not, it's not going to be enjoyable for you, because
Hmm.
getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning on a random Tuesday is not my favorite thing to do. But taking care of my sisters is something that I find to be very rewarding, right? And so
Hmm.
some of the elements of being a doula are hard. And so I just tell people that you want to make sure this is something that you really feel led and called to do, because if not, it's not going to fill your cup up enough for you to be like, okay, it's worth it to be on call, meaning that I can't really go nowhere because I got people who could potentially have a baby at any time. You
Yeah.
know, it's hard to justify that if this is not truly something you feel called to do.
To do.
So if you feel like this is your call, I would definitely say, look at, do some research first. If you're looking at who to train with or who to learn, more information from, I would definitely say do your research. And so I think that if you feel the call, or you feel like, oh, this could be somewhere that I fit, do some research. And then before you do your training, so many people do this the opposite way. Before you even train, you need to decide, are you going to be a doula that owns their own business? Or are you going to be a doula that works for an agency? Is it something that you're passionate about but don't want to make money doing? Because there's plenty of places where you could volunteer. Or is this something that you want to do to be gainfully employed, or to be at least able to, pay your bills and stuff like that? Because that changes the narrative of what you need to be prepared for.
For.
I tell people all the time, and I told y'all this during training, that there's Brandi the entrepreneur, and then there's Brandi the doula. If Brandi the entrepreneur does not get up and create work for Brandi the doula to do, I don't have clientele, right? But it's very important that you understand that those two things aren't a couple. Just because you feel called to birth work does not mean that you feel called to entrepreneurship, and that's okay. And that, to me, is probably one of the hardest things for people after they make the decision to become a doula, is that, okay, well, what do I do now? But you want to decide that before, because if you know going into it that, hey, when I, train or certify, whatever, if I choose to be a doula, that I know I'm going to go out and find my own clients, you're going to approach it different than, hey, I'm passionate about this, but that going out to get my own clients is not necessarily what I want to do. So let me research, agencies, collectives, other things in my area, so I have the answer to what I do after. Because the training is just a snapshot into your life as a doula, right?
Hmm.
And so it's going to be important that you know what you're going to do after. Because what I find is too many black and brown doulas, you go out, you train, you're excited, but then it's hard. People always ask me, where are all the black doulas at? I'm like, we're out here. We truly are. But this is not an easy space to
It's not.
navigate all the time. And that's why mentorship is important, or, at least knowing people and doing it together, building community. But yeah, so just in general, I would say, yes, it's an amazing job, right? I absolutely love it. Clearly, I've been doing it a while, but it's not easy, right? So it's sometimes
Hmm.
you catch something and it's because it's a trend, or because it looks cute on the outside. Like, yeah, it ain't all about Instagram posts and snuggling babies. Like, it's really hard work
Yeah.
going in these hospital rooms. It's a lot of advocacy taking place. It's a lot of sleepless nights. It's a lot of supporting, what your clients need, and that's not always going to be the glamorized the part of the job that's glamorous, but that doesn't mean that you won't love it if you truly are called to do it.
Okay. So, in closing, and you kind of mentioned this already, but what do you put in your cup every day? Your
Mm.
emotional, spiritual, and mental cup to keep you going.
Oh, that's good. So I would say spiritual. Of course, I love the Lord, and I truly give Him so much thanks and honor for how far He has brought me. You know, when I first started off as a doula, I had no clue that this was the journey that He had me on, and I laugh. I'm talking about real life laugh to myself sometimes, Ebony. Like I didn't know what a doula was. I ain't got no kids. I don't want no kids. I'm just in this space. Like I love it here. I love it. Like what, like what am I doing? And it's like the stuff like that is like it ain't nothing but the Lord, girl. What is you doing over here in this space? You know, for this long, being able to actually find success. Because I get so many people who become doulas or want to be doulas and they don't have kids. They're like, oh, Brandi, well, I can't get clients because I don't have kids. I'm like, girl, I get all the clients.
Yes.
I tell people, you don't want me to have kids. That means that when you need me, I'm
And
on
you
my way.
might not be available.
There you go. My baby, she graduated college. I don't have no need to be worried about nobody else, you know? And so I would definitely say, you know, one of the biggest things that fills my cup is my, you know, devotionals and quiet time with the Lord. I feel like being able to pray for my clients, pray for, you know, various things that are going on in my life for direction, definitely helps keep me centered, keep me grounded, and fills my cup. And then to know me is to know that I love, you know, music. And so I'm definitely a big music person. One of my favorite motivational speakers, his name is Eric Thomas. He's a hip hop
Mhm.
preacher, and I am such a huge fan. I try to listen to at least one of his videos every single day. But I went to a conference that he did. Oh goodness, this was pre-COVID, so years ago, and one of the things that he said that really stuck out to me is that motivation has to be manufactured sometimes, you know? And so oftentimes people think that motivation, especially people who are doing well or seem to be motivated, like, oh my gosh, they just woke up like that. Like, no, some days, I'll be honest with you, Ebony, some days I wake up like, I want to oh, baby. I want to call out. I want to get done. Okay, I wake up like that some days. And on the days when I wake up like that, I have my get ready playlist, or, you know, I have a lot of different playlists, you know. And so, depending on what the mood is, I can manufacture my motivation. I don't have to wait to feel motivated. And so, I think that that's one of the keys to success as well, you know, and it fills my cup understanding that I don't always have to feel like it. I just got to be obedient. Like, this is my call. I got to get up, I got to do it. And so, what do I need to do to get it done? And
Yeah.
so, some days it's music, you know. So yeah, those things really fill my cup. Definitely spending time alone with the Lord, spending time in quiet, which I love to talk. So that's something that I. But you know, spending time quietly with the Lord, and then. You know, music, you know, some kind of playlist that I'm able to listen to and say, okay, today I ain't feeling it, but this is going to get me to the place I need to be to get it done. And then motivation. I tell people all the time, you have to encourage yourself. And so I listen to motivational speakers like crazy. I follow ET on Instagram, Facebook, all of the things. And anytime he has a new, you know, something go up on YouTube, I'm there. I want to hear it. I want to, you know, use those as tools to motivate me. And yeah, that keeps me going. It really truly does, you know, in consistency with those things, right? I can always tell if I'm having a week and I haven't consistently done those things to keep me full because I'm tired, you know.
Mhm.
Whereas if I do those things, it definitely helps me to be able to approach the day, the week, you know, the session with my client in a much better spirit.
Okay. Well,
Mm-hmm.
thank you so much. You have given us a word. Motivation has to be manufactured sometimes, and that's
Yeah,
the whole word. And we're gonna take that word for the week.
I know that's right. Yeah,
Okay?
I mean, it definitely changes things. You can't always wake up and feel like it, baby.
Yeah, because you're not. But Brandi, thank you so much for taking this few minutes out of your busy schedule to come and chit chat with me. This has been What's in Your Cup with Doula Brandi Bishop. We'll see y'all next
Thank you
time. Good night.
guys.